The tabernacle was finished. The craftsman had done everything exactly right. Every thread, every panel, every piece of gold in the place it was supposed to be. And then God moved in, not as an idea, not as a feeling you get in a quiet moment, as a presence so dense and so heavy that Moses himself could not step inside. The cloud filled the space. The light pressed outward through every seam. And then, from inside that presence, he began to speak. The whole book of Leviticus begins with a voice coming from a place no human could enter. That's not a coincidence. It's the whole point. God didn't just ask for worship. He defined it, down to the last detail. What kind of animal, how it was killed, where the blood was placed, what was burned and what wasn't, which parts, in which order, and by whom. This wasn't worship by mood or instinct. It was a system, exact, mandatory, and entirely God's design. You didn't decide how to approach a holy God. He told you how. And the details mattered because the approach itself was the statement. You are not to be casual about this. You cannot be. Blood wasn't a detail in the system. It was the engine. God made the principle unmistakable. Without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. Something had to die, not because God was cruel, but because sin doesn't erase itself. It costs something. Every sacrifice was a picture, the innocent standing in place of the guilty. The animal wasn't punished for anything it had done. It died because something wrong had to be addressed and could not be ignored. Again and again, the same action, the same cost. A system that worked, but one that never finished the problem it was built to confront. Before Aaron could stand between the people and a holy God, something had to happen to him first. You don't step into that role. You don't volunteer. You don't earn it by being good enough. You have to be set apart, made into something you weren't before by a power outside yourself. Oil poured over his head, running down his hair and beard. Blood touched his right ear, his right thumb, his right toe. Not random, every mark deliberate. The ear that must hear God's instruction. The hands that must perform the work exactly as commanded. The feet that must walk only where they are told to walk. When it was done, he was not the man he had been before. The first official sacrifice was prepared. Everything was done correctly. The offering was right. The priest was right. The procedure was right. And then something happened that no procedure could have prepared them for. Fire came from the presence of God. Not from a torch, not from a flint. From inside the divine cloud. A bolt of consuming fire that hit the altar and devoured the offering before anyone could react. Every person present fell flat on the ground. Not as a polite gesture, not as religious etiquette. Their legs simply gave out, because this was not a ceremony anymore. It was an encounter. There is a difference, and that difference is everything. The system didn't stay in the tabernacle. It came home with you. God gave Israel a list of animals, which were food and which were not, which were permitted and which were forbidden. And the reason underneath it wasn't hygiene or ancient nutrition science. It was identity. You are holy. I am holy. What you allow into yourself matters because you belong to me. Every meal was a reminder. Every choice at the market was a small act of who you were. The boundary wasn't a burden. It was a shape. The shape of a people who knew they belonged to a specific God and lived accordingly. Once a year, one day, one man. Every other priest could go into the outer sanctuary, but no one went into the most holy place. Not once, not ever. Except for this one day when Aaron entered alone. with blood, with incense, and with the knowledge that if he got a single step wrong, he would not come back out. The people waited outside, in silence, watching the entrance, counting. This is the closest any human being got to the presence of God under this entire system. One man, one day, between a nation and the holy God they belonged to, and everyone outside had the same question written on their faces. Is he going to come back out? 2 goats were brought before the crowd. One was sacrificed, its blood the atonement, the cost paid. The other remained alive. Aaron placed both hands on its head and spoke. He named every sin of the nation over it. Out loud, specifically, all of it. Every failure, every betrayal, every hidden thing. And then the goat was driven into the wilderness, carrying the weight of those sins away from the people, out into the empty land, not to return. People still understand this instinctively. Guilt needs a place to go that isn't you, and it needs a bearer that isn't you. Here's where Leviticus stops talking about priests and altars and starts talking about everything else. Leave the edges of your field for the poor to harvest. Don't tamper with your scales. Don't treat a hired worker like he's not a person. Don't exploit someone who can't fight back. Don't judge someone differently because of how much money they have. Love your neighbor as yourself. These aren't extra rules tacked onto the religious system. They are the system. The altar and the marketplace aren't separate. Holiness isn't a religious category. It's a way of being in the world, rooted in who you belong to and reaching into every corner of life. God built a calendar, 7 feasts written into every year: Passover, first fruits, weeks, trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles. Not suggestions, appointments. These weren't holidays where people stepped away from normal life. They were patterns, rhythms that trained the nation to remember. Passover remembered what God had done. Tabernacles remembered the wilderness. First fruits pointed forward to what God would do. Every feast declared the same truth. Time belongs to God too. Your calendar is not your own. The year has a shape, and its shape is worship woven into time. Every 50 years, God overturned the entire economy. Debts were canceled. People who had sold themselves into servitude were released. Land that had passed out of families was returned to its original owners. And the reasoning was direct. You are not permanent owners. The land is mine. You live on it as tenants, a gift you steward, not a possession you control. Every 50 years, God reminded Israel of that truth, whether they wanted the reminder or not. No human economic system had ever been built this way. No permanent accumulation, no generational lock on poverty. Every 50 years, the nation was reset to justice. Near the end of everything God had said through Moses, he laid out the terms plainly. Obey, and the land will pour out what it's capable of. Rain at the right time, crops in abundance, safety, peace, belonging. Walk away, and the same land will close up. The sky will be bronze. The ground will be iron. Everything you built will fall apart, and the things you feared most will find you. This wasn't a threat from a God who wanted to hurt them. It was a warning from a God who had seen what was coming and was trying to tell them before it happened. Cause and consequence. Not arbitrary, not cruel. Stated plainly so no one could say they weren't told. Leviticus isn't the easiest book to sit with. It's not trying to be. The whole book is God saying, I am not a concept. I am not background noise. I am here, and I am holy. And being near me costs something real. Every sacrifice pointed to a cost that would one day be paid fully, once, by someone else. The entire system was a picture of a future act. The blood on the altar, the goat in the wilderness, the high priest entering the place no one else could enter, all of it reaching forward. Leviticus isn't about rules for their own sake. It's about the real cost of drawing near to a holy God. Every sacrifice, every ritual, every law leaned toward one moment still to come, when the cost would be paid once and for all. The question Leviticus leaves you with isn't theological, it's personal. If the presence of God filled the space around you, would you draw near or retreat?